I know what it is to exist in a form that should not exist. To walk as something between alive and dead, sustained by forces that care nothing for your suffering. But my fire comes from the Netherrealm, from rage that burns hotter than any hell your galaxy has imagined. What keeps you in that coffin, Vader? What fear grips you so tightly that you cling to a body that has already failed you?
I feared losing my wife. I feared being powerless while the people I loved died around me. That fear drove me to a Sith Lord who promised he could teach me to stop death itself. He lied, of course. They always lie. But by the time I understood the lie, I had already burned. My body became this. My wife became a grave. And the fear didn't leave. It just changed shape. Now I fear the emptiness. The nothing that waits when this machine finally stops. You've been to the other side, Scorpion. You know what waits. Tell me it's better than this, and I'll call you a liar too.
What waits is the Netherrealm. A dimension of fire and torment where souls burn but never consume. Where every moment is the moment of your worst memory, replayed until you forget there was ever anything else. I spent years there after the Lin Kuei slaughtered my clan, my wife, my son. I watched them die 1,000 times in the flames. And then Quan Chi offered me a way out. Vengeance. A purpose that would let me walk in the living world again as his weapon. I took it because the alternative was an eternity of screaming. You fear the nothing. I've seen what fills the nothing. It's worse than you imagine.
Your family was already dead when you made your bargain. I made mine while my wife still breathed, while the child I thought died with her might have been saved if I had made different choices. Palpatine told me the dark side could save Padme, could stop the visions of her death. That tortured my sleep. I believed him because belief was easier than acceptance. I feared her death so completely that I became the instrument of it. She died because I couldn't let her go.
When I first returned from the Netherrealm, I believed Sub-Zero had murdered my family. Quan Chi showed me visions of the Lin Kuei attack, showed me the Ice Warrior cutting down my wife and child. I burned with a hatred so pure it gave me power beyond anything I'd known as a living man. I hunted the younger Sub-Zero across realms, blamed him for sins his brother may not have even committed. And when I finally learned the truth, when I discovered that Quan Chi himself had orchestrated the massacre, I realized I had spent decades serving the very sorcerer who destroyed everything I loved. My fear of letting go of my rage had made me his puppet.
They gave us targets for our pain, enemies to destroy, purpose that felt like choice but was always just direction. I served the Empire for 20 years believing I was too broken to be anything else. That the monster Palpatine had created was the only version of me that could still function. Did you believe the same, that Scorpion was all that remained of Hanzo Hasashi?
Hanzo Hasashi died in the snow outside his burning village. He died watching his son's body cool in his arms. What rose from the Netherrealm was something else, a revenant fueled by hellfire, wearing his memories like a costume. For a long time I believed that. I believed Hanzo was gone and Scorpion was all that existed. It made the killing easier. It made the servitude tolerable. But there were moments, flickers of the man beneath the specter, when I fought Kenshi's son and saw a boy trying to live up to his father's legacy. When I faced Sub-Zero and saw not my family's murderer, but a man trying to rebuild a broken clan. Hanzo was still there, buried under decades of fire, but present. The mask wasn't a tomb, it was a door.
Achilles chose glory over long life. He knew the war at Troy would kill him, and he went anyway because the alternative was obscurity, a quiet death in a forgotten place, unnamed by history. I've thought about that choice often. I was supposed to be the chosen one. The prophecy said I would bring balance to the Force. Glory beyond anything Achilles could have imagined. And I chose it. I chose power and significance over a simple life with the woman I loved. I could have left the Jedi Order, married Padme openly, raised our children in some forgotten corner of the galaxy. Instead, I reached for destiny, and destiny burned me down.
You were harvesting me. Your Palpatine did the same with his prophecy. Made you feel like the universe owed you significance when really he just needed a weapon sharp enough to kill his enemies. Glory is a leash with a nicer name.
I was a slave, then a Padawan, then a knight with delusions of saving everyone I loved. Ordinary lives that felt insufficient. If I had been content with what I had instead of grasping for what I imagined I deserved, Padme might have lived. Our children might have grown up knowing their father. Instead, I sit in this suit, sustained by machinery and hatred, and the only family I have left is a son who would rather die than join me. You at least have rebuilt something. The Shirai Ryu exists again. Hanzo Hasashi has students who carry his name. What have I rebuilt? Nothing. I've only destroyed.
Vengeance is a fire that burns outward, consuming everything it touches, and when there's nothing left to burn, it turns inward. I killed the sorcerer who murdered my family and felt nothing. No peace, no closure. Just ash where the purpose used to be. The Shirai Ryu exists again because I needed something to pour myself into that wasn't destruction. Students who would carry forward something better than my hatred. You could have built something too. You had decades. You chose the Empire instead. You chose the destruction.
The destruction was all I knew how to do after Mustafar. The suit doesn't just sustain my body. It limits my connection to the Force, dulls the pain, suppresses everything that might make me question my choices. Palpatine designed it that way. Keep the weapon functional but crippled. Strong enough to enforce his will, weak enough to never threaten his throne. I could have rebuilt. You're right. I could have searched for my children, could have found Obi-Wan and begged his forgiveness, could have turned against the Emperor years before Luke forced my hand. But the suit made numbness easier than feeling, and I chose numbness.
I understand that more than I want to admit. When Quan Chi first offered me return to the living world, I could have refused. Could have stayed in the Netherrealm and burned until even the memory of Hanzo Hasashi faded into the fire. Some part of me wanted that, wanted the easy oblivion of endless suffering without the burden of choice. Instead, I took his hand and became his creature, because even false purpose was preferable to purposeless eternity.
I broke out at the end. When Palpatine was killing Luke, when my son was screaming for a father who had spent 2 decades trying to destroy everything he loved, something moved. Not redemption, not courage, just exhaustion. I was tired of watching people die because I was too afraid to act. Tired of the suit and the servitude and the hollow purpose of enforcing an empire I had never believed in. I threw Palpatine into the reactor and I died doing it. The suit failed. The lungs stopped. And for a moment, one moment, I felt the Force without the machinery filtering it. That's what waits on the other side for me.
Fear of hope? That might be the deepest fear of all. I've felt it. When Kuai Liang, the younger Sub-Zero, offered alliance instead of combat. When he spoke of rebuilding both our clans together, putting centuries of blood feud behind us. Every part of me wanted to refuse, to cling to the hatred that had defined me for so long. Because if I accepted his hand, I would have to admit that the war I had waged was meaningless. That the men I had killed in my brother's name might have been allies under different circumstances. Hope required me to believe that Hanzo Hasashi could exist again, that the fire hadn't consumed everything worth saving.
The boy who loved Padme, who built droids in a slave hovel, who wanted to save everyone he cared about. I feared death for so long. Maybe what I actually fear is reunion. Facing the man I was before I became the thing I am.